What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Bell Family Podcast, if that's what we're going to name this podcast. We don't even have a name, honestly. We're just kind of going at this point. But I guess kind of started off, we are Sam and Elena. We are 28, 26. We have so many kids. We have 5 kids. I don't even want to go through their ages or me to go through all that.
I don't want to go through the ages.
No, you're going to go through it all.
I don't want to do my conference talk, nothing.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess to kind of jump straight into it, we started this podcast really just help married couples, families, singles, people that are dating, courting, all that fun stuff. Really just kind of go through the process. I won't say smoothly, or not even really go through the process, but just kind of give our insight. We've been married for 5 years now.
Yeah.
We have 5 kids, like I said before. We have Christian values, so we believe in gender roles. We believe
I might say biblical values, Christian biblical values, because Christian values are a little different than biblical values nowadays.
Yeah, true. So we have biblical values. So everything that we do, we try to get straight from the book. So yeah.
I wanted to say though, before we started, because with 5 years of marriage, I don't feel like that's really anything noteworthy necessarily, because 5 years of marriage isn't that long.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say that, like, part of the reason I was interested in starting coaching or even getting on and doing a podcast was when we started going to, we weren't necessarily having marital issues, but we started a new church and we wanted to integrate ourselves in a group, and so we started a remarriage podcast. Re-engaged podcast. Re-engage class.
Yeah.
And we were in the class with people around our age. Well, not really, we're kind of the youngest people there.
Yeah.
Sam's 28, I'm 26, and so everybody else in the class was in their 30s, 40s, and 50s.
There's one. Oh, they're in their 30s, yeah.
Yeah, and we were the youngest people in the class, and we going through the program, we realized that we knew a lot of stuff in the program, and so we just kind of realized how blessed we were to to have learned a lot of stuff that people were barely learning in their 10th, 20th, 30th year of marriage.
Yeah.
And how blessed we are to have got to skip all of that. Not to skip it, but go through it faster, because we've gone through a lot of crap.
We spent a lot of time together.
We spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
And we spent a lot of time prior to this. We were in the coaching business prior to this, and so we've done a lot of reading, a lot of foundational building.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time together, which means we've had to hash a lot of things out.
Yeah.
And so I just felt like I wanted to start a podcast, because not that we're anybody, but I just felt like we, for some reason, we're blessed with the knowledge of how to run our marriage a lot quicker.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Kind of touching on the time thing. I work from home, and you stay at home. So, I mean, for the last 5 years, 6 years, we've spent like max 3 days apart, which is crazy to even think about. Where I've been somewhere else in a different city or a different town or whatever. Like, it's only been, I mean, max 5.
No, max 3.
Yeah, I'm like, I think we've only been 3 days. Like,
yeah. I mean, ever in existence. I mean, since Sam and I started dating, we very quickly were spending every waking second together. And then when we got married, we just kind of never split each other's side. But so it's has given us far more time. I mean, we ran a business together, so we were doing a business together. He works from home. I'm a stay-at-home mom, so we were at home together.
Yeah.
So the amount of hours that somebody may have spent in 10, 15 years of marriage, I feel like we've spent, I looked up the average, I don't remember it anymore. Do you remember it? It's like something like the average couple spends 2 hours a day together.
Yeah.
well, we spend that together within the first 2 hours of our morning. And so, yeah, we've had a lot of time.
Like 5 days for a normal couple is like half a day.
1 day, yeah, half a day
for us.
Yeah.
Which is
a blessing.
Yeah.
But it's also...
It's crazy.
Yeah. It also makes you learn things a lot quicker. Makes you figure things out. Like if you had no choice but to run, you're going to get pretty good at running.
Yeah. True.
Versus if you have, I don't know, running's a stupid example because running's pretty self-explanatory, but you know what I mean? Like if you have no choice but to do one thing, you better get pretty good at it, or you're going to sulk.
Yeah, good thing we like each other. At least most of the time, right?
Yeah, most of the time. So why do you think that we're not light years ahead? Why do you think that we have not more knowledge? It's a horrible thing to say. Like when we were in the room of being with all our elders, I guess, or like people older than us in the remarriage group, like why is it, do you think? Like what is the work that you think it took to even get to that point where because obviously we've never taken a remarriage class.
Yeah. We didn't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Which probably was a bad idea. But we didn't do any of the counseling or anything.
Yeah, and a lot of people do like
premarital
counseling, yeah.
And in marital.
So like obviously it wasn't the type of blessing where we just woke up and I was good at basketball.
Yeah.
It was like obviously we had to work some type of way to get there. Is it the time together that you think got us there, or?
I think part of it. I think we spent a lot of time failing and adjusting. So.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we've had a lot of arguments. We've had a lot of like serious conversations. We've had a lot of just figuring each other out, figuring out what you liked, what you didn't like, what I liked, what I didn't like. And so I think and then also, again, we're best friends, so I think that helps out a lot. Like the fact that we are married, but our friendship is still one of the most important things in our marriage. Like obviously the roles and stuff are cool, and like we're gonna do that because God told us to do it. But I think being best friends allows us to give each other that not space, but like that grace of. You're gonna screw up sometime. I'm not going anywhere. We just have to figure it out. You know, I think, and then I think making that decision when we started was the most important part of being like, no matter how hard this gets, no matter what happens, divorce isn't an option.
Yeah.
So we gotta figure out what the crap we're doing. Like we fight. It might be in the beginning. It was like a few days before we would not before we would talk, but before we would like get back to normal. Yeah. And then obviously as we've been going, we've figured out and tweaked.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm also I feel like not like I'm gonna put myself on the back, but like I've never been afraid to talk to you because I guess we were best friends. So there was never, I feel like a lot of like a commonality in that class was that people were afraid to talk to each other, or they weren't talking to each other, or there was like a lack of whatever. And I like to talk till I'm blue in the face. So there was never just that fear of like coming and letting you know, or if I felt something was wrong or like something's up, being like, hey, what's going on? Like, I can tell by your face that I did something or whichever.
Right.
I feel like that helps so much, that ability to communicate with one another, because I mean we've done our 10,000 hours worth of talking.
Yeah, we have.
I don't even know if we've been married for 10,000 hours.
No, we haven't. But
yeah.
10,000 hours?
Yeah. I'm not gonna do math right now, but I'm pretty sure 1 year.
I'm pretty sure 10,000 hours is.
There's 24 hours in a day.
I don't know. We're not gonna figure it out.
That's right 50 days.
Yeah, where's your phone?
Isn't 50 days 10,000 hours? If 24 hours in a day.
No, not 50 days. What?
50 times 24 would be 10,000.
24. I don't know how to figure that out.
10,000 divided by 24.
Like 10,000 divided by what?
Or 24 times 365.
Let's figure out how many hours in a year.
Yeah.
365 times 24 is 8,000. So
no way.
8760.
Okay. Well, anyway, we still definitely surpassed 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
Not of talking, but...
But I'm a professional Elena teacher.
Yeah.
I could teach you.
Yeah.
Not you, but like I could teach you to someone else if I needed to.
Yeah. I know Sam like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool though. I don't think a lot of people understand how cool that is, just to be able to be like, in 5 years,
yeah,
I've spent that much time.
Yeah. I mean, what is that book? Outliers? Mm-hmm. Am I just making that up? Ooh, look at me. I've never read that book. Yeah, because if it takes 10,000 hours in if that's like a genuine thing, a rule thing, I don't know. I've never read that book, so you're going to have to make me not sound stupid here. But like if that's something that's real, and it does genuinely take 10,000 hours, about 10,000 hours, around 10,000, whatever it may be, then you might want to get to that in your marriage as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Like,
if you do it for business or you do it for hobbies, why would you do it for your marriage?
Exactly. Like, I may not know anything else as well as I know you. I know my kids.
Yeah.
I know, which not even all of them. I haven't even, not all of them, because we have 9 million of them.
Yeah.
So, but I'm a professional in you, and I may not be a professional in the other things that I like doing, but my marriage is the most important thing to me. And that's so cool, because I could have taken, or apparently according to statistics, I could have taken, what would that be? If people spend 2 hours a day together? That's ridiculous. I'm not going to do that math. But that would take years and years and years to even get to a point where you know your spouse. What's even crazier is you're changing constantly. A person is changing, evolving, growing, sometimes going backwards, constantly. So
you don't even know.
Yeah,
by the time, know who you're with.
Yeah, by the time you've gotten 10,000 hours, you don't even have 10,000 hours because the person's changed so many freaking times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so weird. Yeah.
That's wild. That's actually a really crazy thing about.
Yeah.
Because, they're going to work. They're liking new things. They're seeing new people. They're meeting new people. And honestly, most marriages suck at communicating. So they're not letting their spouse know these changes all the time.
Yeah.
Where with us, it's kind of like, it's just us. Like I don't go anywhere. You don't go anywhere. When you change something that you like, you tell me. Not like on a sense of like, you better tell me what you're changing, like what your new likes are, but like, because I'm your best friend and vice versa.
All we do is talk to
each other. And so you're updated in real time on everything.
I would almost say that I've spent more hours with you than you've spent with yourself. I would almost say that I know you better than you know you in some instances, or you know me better than I know me in some instances.
Yeah.
Weird. That's the first time I've ever thought about that. That's really cool.
What's crazy is that it's only been 5 years. So I'm like, who knows? Like when we're 28 and 26, when we're 35 and 33, or like when we're 40 and 38, it's just gonna be nuts. Because there's times now where we'll be like in the car and we'll just think about the same thing at the exact same time. And then you'll say it or I'll say it and you'll be like, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
And like we're kind of becoming...
Yeah, I mean one flesh.
Literally one entity.
Yeah.
And it's just the weirdest thing. It's just like, I don't know if it's patterns or what, or how that works out. But
well, yeah, imagine if all you're doing is knowing somebody, then that's all you know. I mean, if you are who you're around and all around is you, then I can only imagine that I think what you think. But also, I mean, there has to be some spirituality to it, because if God says for two people to become one flesh, I mean, there has to be something spiritual as far as like, I imagine if I spent this much time with my mom, I wouldn't know my mom as well as I know you.
Yeah.
You know, because there's intimacy there.
Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, I don't know. It's just it's a wild thing to think about, especially. I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going, but I don't know. I like it. I wouldn't change any of it. I think it's almost crazier that people don't spend as much time together. Like, there's couples that because of the life they chose and because of the life that they operate in, it's almost like their family is just pictures. It's like the weirdest thing. So like,
yeah, like their family is like literally just an Instagram page, but in their life.
Yeah.
Like it's just a highlight.
It's a highlight.
Like they're only there for the highlights, and the rest they're like mentally checked out of.
Yeah, because they're always at work, or like they're always separated, or
they're frustrated, and so they're mentally like.
Yeah, so they get home and they're frustrated and they're pissed, and so they're not talking, and then they lost a day. It's just like, I don't understand how people do that. Yeah. Or like they go to 2 different jobs, and then they spend more time with the coworkers than they do each other.
Yeah.
Like way more time.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine if I was at work, like actually physically at work?
Yeah.
For 8 hours, and then only came home for 2 hours, and then.
I mean, yeah. On top of that, I think what's so cool is even if you do go to work, even if you did go to work, we would still be on top of being friends when you did get home.
Yeah.
Because it's a priority for us.
Yeah.
But what's even cooler is because of making our friendship a priority and our relationship a priority, I think that's what gets us to where we are now. This, like, we're like a machine. We know where we want to go. We don't know how we're going to get where we're going to go. A lot of that's, time or God or however. We don't always know how we're going to get to where we're going to go, but we know where we want to go. And so, like, our home is our mission, where when you don't ever talk and y'all aren't best friends and he's going to work and you're going to work, or you're going to work and I'm home with the kids, or however it is, you become separate. Yeah. So there's no way, because you and I, we know our roles and we know exactly what we want to do. Well, we know that because we know what our end goal is, and we know what we're wanting to achieve because we know we're the main thing that we need to protect at all times.
Yeah.
Where when you start, like, when you don't make communication your number one thing, and friendship your number one thing within your marriage, y'all are both going on totally separate roads and separate goals. I almost said roles and goals. You know what I'm saying though? Yeah. And there's so much importance to making sure that the person you married is your bestie for the restie.
Bestie for the restie.
That's all I get. That's all the girls. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly what you're saying. So, how do you? If you're a single person, how do you do that? How do you find your bestie for the restie and marry that person?
Oh, I was going to tell you something I saw on TikTok. Mm-hmm. This girl was asking, just like an open-ended, it relates, I promise. Sorry, I'm doing my woman thing. Talking thing. She asked this open-ended question. She goes, are you guys really just falling in love and getting married, or are you guys making a choice and just going with whomever you are with? Mm-hmm. And it made me think to myself, I'm straight. You go with whoever you're with, kind of, like, not in a bummy way, but you were in a relationship before me for years, and that's the person you thought you were going to marry until you decided it wasn't. I was in a relationship for years before you and I with the person I thought that I was going to marry. You could probably have said in that time period that y'all were together that y'all were best friends, as could I have probably have said in a time period where we were together that we were best friends. Now looking back, you realize that we weren't. Yeah. But I think that it's, you find somebody that you are best friends with and you make the decision that that's your life partner. And it's not the fact that you like them that makes you communicate every day, because I don't always like you, you don't always like me, but it's the fact that I made that decision and you made that decision. So no matter what, today we're going to talk. And no matter what, tomorrow we're going to talk. Even if we have to talk about something stupid that I don't like or something stupid that you don't like, we're going to laugh and we're going to make sure that our friendship is a priority. Yeah. But that question put it in such a different perspective for me, because I was like, no, you're not necessarily falling in love. I feel like you are, and staying in love is very important. But
it's not the lovey-dovey.
Yeah, when you get
Lady in a Tramp.
Yeah, when you get married based off being in love and you think that that's going to stay, you're in for this disgustingly rude awakening, because there's going to be a day you wake up and you're not in love anymore. Yeah. Because the honeymoon phase goes away. Yeah. So that's my advice for the single person is whomever it is, make sure that you're making that decision that you're going to like them.
Not just through the good stuff.
Yeah, you're going to be with them and you're going to stay on that mission field every single day, whether you're tired of the war or not. You're going to get up and you're going to fight because you're protecting your country. Because you're protecting your marriage.
Right.
Because not every day, I'm sure, right? Not every day you want to wake up and chat with me. I'm sure there are days you want to get up and go to the gym and focus on you and do you. But because we've made the promise to each other that... And it just takes one small thing to mess it up, you know? One, like, selfish moment compiled into many selfish moments.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No, you're fine. I don't really know where to go with that, but... No, you're absolutely right, though. I mean, I think... if you're a single person watching this and you're trying to find the person that you can spend 10,000 hours with, it's not going to be in their looks. It's not going to be in that one thing that y'all have in common. Like, we have a lot of things in common, don't get me wrong, but like, how much time do we actually spend doing those things that we have in common with each other? Like, never. And
how many of them have changed since we first met?
Exactly.
Do we still have all those same things in common?
Yeah, like, we both like music, we both like art, we both like writing, we both like learning, but like, most of that stuff, we don't even do. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think there's no real black and white way to even say it. It's kind of just like, you got to make a decision. Like, God didn't say, find someone that you're infatuated with and then make them infatuated with you.
Yeah.
Like, you
commit.
You commit. Like, you said, this is the person.
I mean, yeah, because when you think about, not to get super biblical, but also to get super biblical, when you think about it, he didn't always like the Israelites. There were many times he was like, I'm going to destroy them.
Yeah.
Like, I want to destroy you. And Moses would be like, please, Lord, remember the commitment you made with Abraham because of whatever. If God got righteously angry at people and wanted to out on his, destroy people, I mean, marriage is, like, sucky. Not sucky, but, like, it's just as bad. Like, we're humans. And so, I guess the number one tip would be to, one, be in that commitment, and then find somebody who's also committed just as well. Because if you're with a girl who's just like, divorce is on trend, like, it's cool to divorce, and then you marry her, well, you're stupid. That's not something you aligned with. You set yourself up for failure.
Yep.
Because she's going to ditch you the moment things get rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I guess, so what are, outside of that, what are some important things now that we've been married for 5 years? And like I said, you were in a previous relationship. What are some things that are important for single people, since we're on the topic of single people, to get down in their singleness? Like, to making sure that when they're courting another woman or however, what are some important things?
Yes. So this is where I screwed up. Because before we started dating, I was like still living. We got married at 22 and 20. Well,
21 and 23.
Was I 23?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yep.
Okay, we got married at 23 and 21. And so I was actually still living with my mom at the time. You were already on your own. You had Audrey.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of just jumped from living with my mom to moving in with you and getting married.
Right.
And I think that was the biggest, I don't want to say mistake, because we wouldn't be here, and obviously everything happens for a reason. But I wish that there was a period, I always talk about, I wish there was a period of time where I moved out and figured out crap myself.
Yeah.
And like lived on myself and paid my own bills and did all that stuff myself. So that way when we got married, it was just, you know what I'm saying? I was fully independent
in your manhood.
In my manhood. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was fully independent. And I think that right there is a huge huge opportunity for a man, at least, to become, or a guy to become a man. Like, get out your mom's house, go live by yourself for a year, maybe 2 years, get a car in your own name, get a line of credit, fix your credit, like, start a savings account, get stable, and then look for that person. Like, where when I did it, I was like, there was no plan. It was kind of just like, I make decent money. I was making like, it was actually really trash, but I was making like $35,000 a year at the time, working in corporate America, like corporate, and still living with my mom, but I had coaches and mentors. I was like, stay here and do this and do that, whatever. And then meeting you and getting married to you, I learned really quick, like, there's more to life than just making money. Like, you have to figure out what to do with the money. Yeah. You can't just out-earn. Like, you can out-earn your problems, but
there's still some internal things that you cannot out-earn.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, again, going back to, like, single man or whoever, it's just become the person that you want would probably want.
Yeah.
You know, like, not knowing that stuff caused a lot of ugliness in our relationship, especially early on. A lot of fighting, a lot of arguments, a lot of who's going to do this, who's going to do that. Yeah. Which even now, there's still some like
moments,
gray areas where it's like, okay, you take care of that because I have no clue what that is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, yes, that's my 2 cents on that whole thing. Just get out there by yourself now before you find that person.
Yeah. Is there anything that you wish you would have asked me?
Wish I would ask you?
Before, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, what is that word? Like, important things that you would have asked me, like, do you want to have a lot of kids? Is there anything that once we got together you were like, you want what? And it like threw you for a loop, but you were already committed?
Yes and no. So there's I grew up in the city. Mm-hmm. So well, it's really weird. I grew up in the country technically.
You grew up in the suburbs. Oh.
Well, I grew up in Louisiana and it was very country. And then I moved to the city. Mm-hmm. But the city, for someone who lives in the country, who grew up in the country, was like, especially in Louisiana, for whatever reason, Dallas is like freaking, is like going to Disney World for people in Louisiana. Mm-hmm. And so my whole life it was like, I want to go to Dallas. And so when I finally got to Dallas, when I was 12 or 13, I just embraced the city life. And so I didn't care about going outside anymore. I didn't care about playing outside or doing anything outside. I just wanted to be a city person. I don't know if that makes any sense. And so when we got married, that's still what I wanted. I still wanted to live in the city. I still wanted to do city stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
And the first time I met you, I asked you what your...
if I had all the money.
If you had all the money in the world, what would you do? And you told me that you live on a farm.
Yeah. In a glass house.
In a glass house. Yeah. And basically sit there with your cows. And I think that was probably an indicator of the difference between me and you.
Yeah.
But we weren't planning on dating or anything at that time.
Yeah.
And so I just never thought about it again.
Yeah.
But that'd probably be the biggest one. It's like, what kind of life do you want to live long term?
Yeah.
Because we've definitely had some back and forths about where we want our life to go, and we've had some agreements and disagreements.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to go into that more, but your extreme versus my extreme are totally different when it comes to that. But meeting in the middle, because we're obviously not going to get divorced, and I'm not going to be like, this is what we're doing because I said so, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's just like compromising and, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. I was going to actually go a completely different way.
Where are you going to go?
I was going to say, well, all the same topic, but on a different topic at the same time, because we're kind of on single people and neither of us are single. I was going to say, if anything, 2 single people and 2 parents, make sure you're teaching your children, or if you are single right now, learn to think long term, because they would have never been questions to either you or I. In reality, I would have never thought to ask you, what do you want your life to look like long term? Because I had no idea what I wanted my life to look like. Like, honestly, to this day, I would not wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning with my cows in a glass house. I was just saying stuff. I was talking out my butt, you know, like just what would look like, how my insides feel. That's how I feel, but that's not what I'm actually going to do. But I feel like single people, regular people, married people, just people nowadays in general don't know how to think long term. They don't know how to think, what do they want in the next 10, 15, 20 years? What do they want their life to actually look like? And I feel like parents then and now aren't teaching their kids to think about the long term. So if you're a parent, make sure you're teaching your kids how to think long term, because they're going to get themselves in something sticky. But to go back, I think, what is the word? What is that word? Not to mediate, you just use it. Compromise.
Yeah.
To compromise, there's compromising, and there's some compromising. A lot of it's compromising, I guess, on your part, but then there's also just a lot of like submission and learning your role as a woman is to submit unto the husband, which women aren't gonna like that, but a lot of it is submitting unto the husband. So there are things that I still desire to this day, because although I would be way more into getting cows if you were somebody who would take care of the cows. A lot of the realization of why I don't want cows anymore is because I would have to be the one taking and sole providing for the cows, and I just can't imagine doing that at this phase of my life. Maybe some other time. So a lot of it is submission unto my head, like following you. And so if you don't want cows, okay, we're not gonna get cows. And
not necessarily because I just don't want them or do want them. It's more so like,
I mean, he should have doesn't.
I don't want them. I don't want them. But I'm just saying, like, it's not like we don't make decisions. Like, I'm not a dictator in our relationship.
No.
Right. So a lot of times when we do stuff, we agree on stuff. So if I wanted to live in downtown New York City, that's a non-negotiable for you.
Yeah.
But I'm the head of the household, but I'm not going to be like, well, so what? You're moving to New York City.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's not a non-negotiable, but for me, it's a pretty hard, I don't want to do that. But because you're a good husband, I mean, you're not going to make me do something so far.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, it might be different if you felt led, like it was.
Yeah, like like God.
Yeah, and if he said we were moving, you're moving. But a lot of it, I guess, in the compromising part is realizing that you're going in as a team.
Yeah.
And being undivided in any way isn't okay. So sometimes it just straight up is being the bigger person and being like, okay, well, is it such a big deal to me? What is this saying? Is it going to matter to me in 5 years?
Yeah.
Is this such a big deal to me that it's worth fighting about?
Right.
Or, well, some things, they are. Like having a cow for you is because you're like, in reality, I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to take care of that cow. I'm definitely not going to clean that cow, feed that cow, do any of the things with the cow. I really don't want a cow.
Exactly.
Well, if that's a non-negotiable to me, is it worth fighting? Is it worth just fighting with you about, even though it's not going to be something that you are going to be, like, that you're going to waver on? Preface, we have a 1-year-old. Not even 1-year-old. He's 5 months old. Yeah. And so that's why there's cutting, because there's a baby crying. Which I'm sure you'll hear a little bit on the part before it cuts out. So I gotta go feed him and then come back. But I was gonna say, I probably look crazy, first of all. I was gonna say, a lot of it is also sacrifice, and I feel like full on learning what it means to love your neighbor more than yourself. Because at the end of the day, you're still my neighbor. You're my husband, but you're also someone that God's called me to love, and I would lay my life down for you.
Yeah. Insane.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But so a lot of it's that if you're going into any relationship, any conversation, anything, trying to get what you want accomplished, like your own personal motives, manipulation, agenda out of it, you've lost already. You may win the argument, but you've lost something bigger. And there's some things that it's just not worth my own personal agenda or your own personal agenda, and to ruin a bit and a piece of our relationship. So there has been a lot of conversations in our marriage, and I know that there's been a lot of stuff you've wavered on, a lot of stuff I've wavered on. Yeah. Because we didn't do those.
I mean, as simple as like working on site, or like starting a business that would require me to travel. Yeah. Or like, you know what I mean? Like, every decision we make, we try to at least
make it together.
Make it together and think about our marriage before the decision, because there's plenty of ways to make a bunch of money. I mean, even doing this podcast, like obviously we're not making any money on this podcast, but it's a way that we can do something together. Yeah. And hopefully it does become a way we can make make a bunch of money from it, and do full time and do it together and always be together and whatever. But we're not looking for things to do separate. Yeah. Is that what we're talking about? Yeah, sort of. Not necessarily, but I think we're talking about compromising, and
before that we were talking about single people.
Yeah, I don't know how we got to compromise. Oh, I said something in that, and then you're like, let me talk about compromising.
Yeah. Well, there has to be a lot more compromising within our marriage, because we didn't do those preliminary steps. Yeah. Because we didn't know what we wanted, and we
weren't successful before we got married. Silly, married or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, outside of that, we just like neither but one of us wanted to or knew what we were looking for. It wasn't until we were 2.5 years into marriage before the Lord fully placed himself in both of our lives. Yeah. And we radically changed, and not at the same time either. Yeah. And radically changed both of our desires and both of our wants to even get to where we are now, which is why I say we have the grace of God for us, because none of it was talked about before. I had said my whole life I didn't want to be a homeschool mom. Yeah. And here I am. So
yeah. I said my whole life I didn't want to do any of this stuff. I mean, honestly.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't want to be a dad until I was older. I didn't want to get married until I was older.
Yeah, you wanted a big corporate or a big boss, like big tie career, like with lots of money and live in the city.
I didn't want a career. I just wanted I wanted to own businesses, and I wanted to not have a job, and I wanted to live in the city. Yeah. And I wanted to really be able to do whatever I wanted to, and then not go into this phase of life until that was done. I wanted to start around the age I am now. Yeah. Where it's kind of the exact opposite. Where it's like, I've had kids for years. I've had a wife for years. Like, I've done business stuff, but nowhere near the level which I thought was going to happen. And so it's just, everything's backwards. Yeah.
But I would say, honestly, doing it backwards feels so much more like a gift to me than otherwise, because we weren't able to get set in our, I mean, even at 21 and 23, we were pretty set in our ways in certain areas. And I can't imagine being 33 and have had a single life, no kids, living selfishly for me, and then all of a sudden being thrown into the rest of my life. Because having kids so much older, not that 33 is old, but having kids so much older means you have all that life, but now the rest of your life is literally raising children. By the time your children are grown, if you have more than one, you're in your 50s. Yeah. And not that that's old either, but you know, it's just different, where you and I will already maybe even have
all
grandchildren.
All 5 of our kids, yeah, they'll all be.
I mean, we may even have grandchildren by the time we're 50. I mean, Audrey would be, by the time we're 50, Audrey would be in her 20s, her mid-20s. Yeah. So, right? By the time I'm 50, Audrey would be in her 30s.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, she'd be
like 32, 33.
Yeah. So it's like,
having kids young was a blessing, and it sucked at the moment, but.
No, it's ever to me.
Well,
I mean, that you see your
first.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you see your friends or see other people doing. Well, no, that's why you meant 16. I just mean like within our. You're saying maybe it sucked for me when I was 16. Yeah. No, it actually sucked more once we were in our 20s, because that's when we actually
started popping them out back to back.
Yeah, but I mean, we also, as far as marriage, even outside of kids, all we know is each other. And so, yeah. You said, yeah. So, it's like, I don't know. I really cannot imagine getting married later on in life. And just being so stuck in my own personal self.
Yeah, I think that's another reason why a lot of people get divorced too, is that the person that they marry don't, like, after you're like 25 and you start getting your life in this pattern, the longer you take to find somebody, the more strict, the stricter your cookie cutter becomes. Yeah. Like,
the type of man you have to have in order to.
I mean, the type of man you have to have, the schedule they have to fit in, all of it. You become more and more rigid around the person that you want to be with, whether it's male or female. So, like, let's say you become a bodybuilder, just randomly at 26 years old, you're like, I'm going to be a bodybuilder. Well, you probably don't want to date somebody
who's on the opposite spectrum.
Who's on the opposite. So you automatically cut off so many people that aren't into nutrition. They aren't into whatever. You can't date someone that wants to run multiple businesses, because you guys are going to be always split. Well, at least if you run by our principle.
Yeah, and you have value.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the longer you take to find somebody, the harder it's going to be. Because also that person's dating and you're dating, and then that's a whole different dynamic in itself, because you're learning different things that might not even be good things to learn from these different experiences you have with other people. Well, with us, like, you dated, like, obviously we've dated other people, but we were so young to where it didn't really, like...
Doesn't count.
It doesn't count, but also it didn't really, like, imprint on us. Like, maybe for you, but for me, it's kind of like, I learned a lot from the relationships I was in when I was 16. Like, you know what I mean? But it's like, it didn't do anything to, like, real world Sam, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, now that, like, once I started working and once I was, like, out of my mom's house, I guess, well, I kind of jumped from there to you, but, like, you were kind of like the first real relationship.
For you?
Yeah.
I don't relate to that, but mine is a one-off case scenario.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess you
yes, me and every other girl who was 16 and pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of benefit into having a relationship early on, married early on, children early on. I mean, we're also younger. We're able to play with our kids. We're able to be active with our kids. We're not tired. We're actually able to have kids. We're not in our 30s having fertility issues because our bodies are closer to a menopausal age and whatever it is for men.
Yeah.
The harder it is, been more of a struggle being 21 and having great finances and already having, you know, a kid or two. But I mean, neither of those things, I don't know. But
I'd rather that, I mean, honestly, because, and I mean, we can go down this topic if you want, but so many people place, we were kind of talking about this earlier actually, so many people place finances above everything else. Like, I was going to say kids, but honestly everything. Like, their marriage, which kind of what we talked about in the beginning, of the reason why we can spend so much time together is because of the way we built our life. Well, if we built our life around finances, we did it all wrong. But we built it around each other. We built it around spending as much time as possible with each other, not building our life around how much money we could make. Because if it was around that, we wouldn't have kids, and you'd be working a job, and I'd be working a job.
Yeah, or we'd have kids, putting our kids in daycare every day just so that we could both go make as much money as we possibly could. Yeah. I mean, I've met many a women who are like, well, I don't want to work, but I order from Amazon every day. You know, because their whole life is based around maybe not the finances themselves, but the stuff that they're gaining from their finances. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're borderline, like, we would be broke and happy and be just fine because we sustain each other and God sustains us. And we sustain our kids. Like, I mean, there's definitely a difference between, like, suffering broke. I mean, I don't think that a man should ever be in a place where you're, like, suffering broke. But we would be fine having our bills paid, and we would be happy and content, where somebody goes from having, like, all of a sudden they can have Starbucks every day and their life is miserable. And their marriage is miserable. And that's sad. But a lot of marriages 100% do run off of their life being based around finances.
I'd rather downgrade my life and spend that time with you and our kids. And instead of living in a 4,000 square foot house because we both work jobs and send our kids to daycare, I'd rather live in a 2,000 square foot house with all of our kids at home, with you at home, and work remote and spend every day with you. I think that little decision in itself is a game changer in relationships, because so many people, that 2,000 square feet is everything. Like, you see so many people, the median income in America is $55,000 a year, right? So that's household married income, like, together, which is nuts. But it's like, okay, well, I don't know if that counts with kids or not, but if it does count with kids, why not just go a little bit lower? Because the difference between $35,000 and $55,000 isn't that much. Like, it's $20,000, but it's like the difference in the lifestyle doesn't really change that much. Like, what would you? I mean,
55 to 35 is a big deal. 55 to 50 may not be a big deal, but 55 to 35
is like a few $100s a month.
55 to 50? Yeah, I mean, that's not a big deal. But jumping $15,000.
I guess what I'm saying is that $20,000 worth sending your spouse to work? That's more so what I'm saying. Like,
I don't think so. I mean, or sending your kids to school, not to school, but to school, but not to daycare either. But no. Is it worth giving up something of such high value? No.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't.
To move around some stuff and figure out. I was just thinking like $35,000 with 5 kids would be
nuts.
But you could definitely figure it out. I mean, I think that all goes back to our very first subject, though, where we've made our mission, you and I. And we've made our mission our family. Because we would go through almost any scenario to make sure that mission stayed good and that we were still on that battlefield and that we were going to win that war at the end of our life. Like, that our kids could say we had a good family, for us to be able to say that we died best friends. We had a life together as best friends.
We were examples to them.
Yeah, and that the marriage, outside of your bond with God, your covenant with God, your marriage is your number one priority. Our number one, ministry. So, but I think that's why people outsource to caring about the 4,000 square foot house, is because they have marriages that suck. And they have husbands that suck and wives that suck, and they would literally rather focus on the material of what they have versus fixing their marriage, because either they feel like they can't fix their marriage or they feel like it's not worth fixing, and it's easier to focus on the square footage of your house. But the reality is you're just going to keep digging yourself into a bigger hole. But...
What?
I don't know. I was thinking about I know a lot of women. I like known a lot of women who are just like... I almost said a bad word. They're cruddy wives and cruddy parents because they have some deep internal marriage issues going on that they won't fix.
Yeah.
And some deep internal, like literally
Personal.
self problems that they won't fix. Deep internal spiritual problems that they won't fix. And so they are outsourcing their trauma and their different issues into different areas of their lives. And
they think spending money is going to fix it.
Spending money, going out, having free time, filling their cup, taking a hot bath, doing all these things. Not that any of those things are wrong inherently, like not like on a surface level. But when you're getting into the root causes of addiction in those areas, then So.
Yeah.
But it's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, not to blanket, but I think that, so the situation we were in when we got married was having 2 kids. You're making, I don't even know how much, but $30,000 a year, $35,000 a year.
Yeah.
Which, at the time, is what it cost to put 2 kids in daycare.
Yeah.
At least a decent daycare. We didn't want to put our kids in, trash. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean? Like, we wanted to be in a nice area. We lived in a nice area, so it would honestly be harder to put them in a bad daycare at the time. Yeah. And so it made more sense for you to come home and for us to just save the money. And so, long story short, to blanket statement, I think if you're in a situation where, as a man, and you have a wife and you have kids, and you're putting your kids in daycare, but the daycare literally is the same amount as your wife's paycheck, you're dropping the ball. I agree. Because why would you send your kids somewhere else and your wife somewhere else for the same amount of money? Like, just sacrifice the money and bring your kids home and your wife home. Yeah.
Well, she wants to work. No, she doesn't. She wants to feel needed. She wants to feel value. She wants to feel there's something going on there. No one wants to work. Who in their right mind wants to work? Yeah. Either somebody wants the benefits of what working gets them, or they want the fulfillment that work is giving them. But no one wants to show up for somebody else and be told when they can eat, when they can pee, when they can do something. Yeah. So it's like, no, find out the reason. Yeah. So she doesn't want to work. Okay, well, she needs some free time. Okay, well, then make enough money or let her go for a walk. Yeah. Well, she doesn't homeschool. Let her learn. Take her to learn. What's more important, the fact that she doesn't want to homeschool, or the fact that somebody else is teaching your kids, putting values into your kids every single day that aren't your values? Or do you not have values? Straight up. Or do you just not have values? You don't have anything worth teaching your kid. You don't care. Never mind. I'll stop. But, I mean, there's a million things, and it's ridiculous. I think it's a ridiculous thing. There's no reason. If the income is needed, then it makes sense. So not blanketing in that area. Yeah, if the income is needed, if your finances are low, or if your husband is in a place where he's dropping the ball and you're being a submissive wife, it makes sense. But if it's preventable and you just don't want to, well, you shouldn't have become a parent. Yeah. Because being a parent, you really shouldn't have become a wife either, because literally the whole foundation of being a wife and a parent is doing stuff you don't want to do. It's not living your life for you. Yeah. Sorry. I mean, pop off.
I thought you were going to start yelling at him.
No. I just think it's a wild thing that we just let ourselves feel and do whatever we feel like, and we don't think about what we're doing and how we're doing it and how it's going to impact people. And I'm not going to say that.
Or our kids. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, I was talking to someone not too long ago that was like, it just blows. We were having a discussion and they were like, well, it just blows my mind how our parents treated us.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, really, how much further are we off?
Yeah.
Like, at what level are you? Because, okay, it's crazy that that person murders someone. Okay, yeah, makes total sense. That's, no one should murder anyone, right? But are you going so far left now that you, like, are you just stopping right here? You're not murdering people, but you're still treating people like crud every day?
Yeah.
Or are you making sure that you're becoming the exact opposite? Okay, well, yeah, our parents treated us like crud. Our generation of parents was not really the best. We're in a time of learning generational trauma and all that stuff. But it's like people are just like, oh, well, we just won't treat our kids like crap.
Yeah.
And that's where they're stopping. Well, no, you're not supposed to murder people. You're not supposed to treat your kids like crap. And if you're stopping here, you're really no better, because the next kid is going to have to inch and inch and inch until someone decides to take it all the way over here.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have the best parents in the whole entire world, and I didn't just stop here. You didn't have the best parents in the entire world. We're not just going to stop here. We went all the way over here.
Yeah.
And so our kids won't have to do the jumping and the hooping and the whatever.
Absolutely.
And unless it's literally not been revealed to us, we don't understand it yet. We're not in a place where it's been brought to our attention where we're messing up. We're changing it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, we're totally different. We're totally different parents than our parents were to us.
Yeah.
Like, way different. The fact that we even talk about the Bible is different. The fact that we've been together physically or married. Both of our parents were divorced multiple times.
Yeah.
Neither of our parents talked about God.
Yeah.
Neither of our parents homeschooled. I mean, we're in a whole different...
My brain is just so rattled because it's like... Yeah, because... Okay, you saw parents who fought all the time. Not you. Yeah. But if you're a person who saw your parents fight all the time, and you're like, you came to the conclusion that your parents don't like each other, and you don't want to be that for your kids, so you just don't hang out with your husband. Your kids are coming to the same freaking conclusion that you came to.
Yeah.
They're not watching you fight, but they still understand that you guys don't like each other.
Yeah.
Go on the complete other side and be besties with your husband. Okay, you saw that your mom rolled her eyes at you and cussed at you or whatever, which, translated in our children minds that my mom does not like me or my parents don't like me. Well, shoving your kid in a daycare all the time when you have the literal ability to hang out with your kid is translating the exact same thing. You didn't change the thing. You didn't change the trauma.
Just because the daycare is nice.
Yeah, you didn't change the trauma within the child. You just, we used to talk about that all the time.
Created a new one.
You just created the same one, but you changed it for yourself.
Yeah.
All you did was care about yourself and say, well, I saw my parents fight all the time, so I'm not going to fight with my husband. You didn't say, I don't want to cause trauma for my kids, so I'm going to make sure, blah, blah. Yeah. I want my child to feel valued and needed, so I'm going to make sure I'm with my child every second that I get an opportunity to, outside of doing things that I need to do. I don't know. I just am, the people, I don't know. I've just talked to so many people and you don't really realize how many people don't care to have help. The pity party is the pity party that everybody wants to be at.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a party I ever want to be at and I want to be a part of. And I just hate that things are going to keep going downhill for so many generations because the generation is next is always having to pick up the pieces of the previous generation, and which is all fine. If you are going to be crap, though, say you're going to be crap. Don't pretend to not be.
Right.
No, say you're doing something when you know you're actually not. Just be straight up and say you're not doing anything and you don't really care to make the change. It takes effort to make the change. We've read books. We've talked to people. We've done not courses, but we study online. We learn our stuff. We are actually try and make the difference. Actually do something.
Well, why do you think people are like that? Because I feel like people are like that because they didn't necessarily want to get married in the first place. I think that there's people that are getting married out of loneliness and internal reasons, but also they like have sex with somebody and then they're like stuck, and then it continues from there. Premarital stuff, which is, I think, not what I think, but which is the reason why God says not to have sex before marriage, because a lot of these people are having sex, getting stuck with this person, and they feel like they have to marry this person, and then going into what we're talking about, which is nuts because they kind of screwed themselves over.
I think people are just selfish.
Yeah.
Like, end all be all, I think people do want to be married, but they only want the good stuff of marriage. I think people want to be skinny, but they only want the good part of being skinny. I think people want...
And when it gets hard, they leave.
And when it gets hard, they don't do it.
Yeah.
And then it's a pity party. People want kids, but they don't actually... They want the good memories from their childhood.
Yeah.
For, again, but for other children. Or for their children, I guess. But they don't want the actual stuff it takes to have continuous good memories.
Yeah.
I think... all kind of things, but I think it boils down to selfishness. And if that's our fallen nature, it is our fallen nature, so it makes total sense. And thank the good Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But I think that's what it boils down to. I think everybody's just selfish pieces of crud. We just all focus on ourselves way too much, and we don't fight against that. We just let ourselves be that way.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
No, you got anything else?
No.
Kind of letting you do your thing.
Yeah. No. I don't. I think the only ways to not be selfish is to not be selfish. I think the only true way to not be selfish is give your life to Christ and read your Bible and understand what it means to be selfless. And to... Which
is the only way to figure it out.
Yeah. And then to value other people and obedience to the Lord over your selfishness, because at the end of the day, there's going to be a time where your value of someone else is going to run out. I love my husband very much and my children very much, but I don't always place their value above mine, and I'm not always going to place a value above mine, because sometimes Sam didn't do the dishes today and now I'm mad at him because of X, Y, and Z, and so now my value and what I desire is higher over his because I'm upset. But when I root the value of obedience to God over my own, which it'll always be there, and I can never devalue God, and I can never devalue obedience, then I'll always have to stay selfless as much as I can outside of, messing up.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only genuine and true way. I think you'll always kind of revert back to normal nature, or you'll turn into people pleasing, which is just as dangerous and just as treacherous of a road.
Yeah, which is a whole different...
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I think that if you're married, it doesn't have to look the same as our marriage, but I think if you're married and you have kids, that should be you and your spouse. I guess to wrap up, you and your spouse need to sit down, set out your boundaries, or have a conversation of what y'all's mission is.
Yeah.
What is y'all's goal as a family? Is that to, change trauma? Is that to grow your kids in a certain way? Is that to be millionaires? Is that to be best friends? Is that to whatever? Yeah. And y'all need to have a conversation of what that is and how y'all are going to get there, and a commitment to one another if you're wanting your relationship to thrive and continue.
Yeah, because I don't think, again, like you said, I don't think it has to be what like we're talking about. It doesn't have to be exactly like ours. We don't have the perfect marriage or like the perfect guideline for all marriages. Because you have guys like, I don't know, like Layla and Alex Hermosi, they went out and they talked about how they're not in the phase where they're looking to have kids.
Yeah.
And the marriage that they have works for them, where they both work, they both like working, that work is their love language. And so they've built their life around what they both love to do together.
Their common mission until their mission changes.
Exactly. Until it changes, and that's the conversation at that point. I think.
To have again,
no one, not say no one, but a lot of couples don't take the time to slow down and go, what are we doing right now? Like, what's the goal at this exact time? Well, like for us, ours kind of been the same the whole time, so we don't really have to slow down to talk about it. Like, we kind of just, that's been it. And I don't think that's going to ever change. It's like, how can we spend the max amount of time together and then everything else is second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever.
Yeah, but it does definitely change because there's points in our lives where, like what the main goal is, or like what the non-negotiable is, isn't always our goal. Our non-negotiable is that we're best friends. Yeah. And we will make sure that never starts to fade. Yeah. But that's not always our goal. Sometimes our goal is we need to get to a point where we're making X amount of money this year. Sometimes our goal is, well, we need to focus on the kids, and so struggle. One of our children is struggling through this. We need to make sure that we're uplifting them. Sometimes our goal is we're both going to get fit. We're going to get into a different spot in our life. I mean, it changes constantly. Sometimes the goal focuses on you. Sometimes the goal is on me. Sometimes the goal is on whatever. But no matter what, if we start to feel the non-negotiable kind of slipping, okay, well, now the focus has been too much on one of our kids, or the focus has been too much on you, too much on me, too much on working out. We need to have a date night. We need to sit down on the couch. We need to chat. We need to go out for a drive. We need to do whatever. Your goal doesn't have to be being best friends. That's just a non-negotiable, which I think should be the same in every marriage. I don't think that should be something that's...
Because then it becomes a chore. It becomes a job. It becomes like this religious thing that you do. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Which is what the whole problem with religion is in the first place. It becomes this chore, not like a love or relationship. Yeah. So, but I don't know. Yeah. If you're good, I'm good if you're good. I know we talked about a lot. Coming in for a landing. Yeah. We're kind of all over the place.
Not really. I feel like we 100% stayed on and around being best friends with your spouse. Yeah. I think we 100% stayed on. Yeah.
So I mean, I guess like I said, we'll come in for a landing here. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. You can follow us on TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff, and DM us.
Yeah, if you hated what we said.
If you hated it, if you liked it.
We said some misogynistic stuff. Yeah. Go ahead, hate us in the comments. If we hated on your parenting skills.
You're going to disagree with a lot of stuff that we said. You're going to disagree with a lot of stuff that we said. The goal here wasn't to make a podcast that everyone agreed with. Yeah. Right? The goal was to talk about our marriage, to talk about where our marriage roots from, which is the Bible, and to really just kind of give insight on how we've been able to do the stuff that we've been able to do, and how we've been able to have the marriage that we do have, and that marriage that we plan to have. And again, you're not gonna like it.
Not everybody will. I mean,
well, everyone's gonna like it. Hopefully, someone likes it. You're not just watching it because you hate us. But like I said, comment down below, guys, what you thought about the video. We'd love to hear questions. You can email us. We'll put our email in the description as well. But that's pretty much it for this episode. So, do you have anything you want to wrap up with? Anything?
No.
Okay. Well, it's about... I have a phone. I don't know what time it is.
2 o'clock.
It's not 2 o'clock. Is it really? In the morning? Shut up.
It's 11:53.
Oh, it's like, oh my god. I was there until 2 o'clock. It's so long. It feels like. But anyway, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.